Today we're going to talk about my top 5 lists for beginner snakes. Let's get started. So the 5th on my list is going to be the milk snake. The reason I chose the milk snake as the 5th on the list is because first of all the cost of the snake is actually not that much, and so is the cost of the tank. Now depending on what size of tank you get, if you get the bare minimum, your cost for the whole month will be looking at $169 for the first run. And then cost per month will depend on how many times you change the substrate and how many times you feed it to, which should be once a week. So generally the food will cost you around like $8, depending on where you live and what your taxes are. And the substrate, here's a little tip for you guys. Do not get Zoomed's substrate. What you do is you get the ones that are made for hamsters or guinea pigs. As you can see, I can't really see Aspen. This big bag was only $4.99 and it has 8 times the amount that the Zoomed bag has, which I think is like $10.99 in my area. So yeah, and this one has less dust because small animals are more prone to getting sick from dust, so that's even better for your snake. Less dust, and it's much cheaper for much more. So yeah, it is just your typical Aspen Living World. You can't really see. Yeah, Aspen shavings. As you can see, it is hypoallergenic and no dust, so that's really good for snakes too. Now, the next snake on my list, which would be number 4, would be the Hognose snake. Again, a normal snake would cost you around $100, but let's say you want to get a really nice snake, it would cost you around like really a lot, like $700 around. The tank could be anywhere from this glass Exoterra tank to a storage container. And same thing for the food, around like $8, and same thing for the substrate. The 3rd on this list would be the Californian king snake, or California king snake. These snakes, the reason this is on number 3 is because, one, you're never going to have a problem with them eating. They will always eat food, so you never have to stress on them eating. Again, the cost of snake is like $50 to $100. The tank, same thing, around $50 to $140, depending on the kind you get. And the food, it's going to cost you a little more because when they get bigger, they require larger food items, so it might cost you a little bit more, around like $12, but not a big deal. They get 4 to 6 feet, so that's something to take into account. But they're really sweet. They don't really bite, and they don't get really like thick, so they're pretty easy to handle. Now, number 2 and number 1 on the list are pretty tied close together, but it just depends on the type of person you are. So we're going to go with number 2, but if you like bigger snakes, then this would be number 1 for you. Number 2 would be the ball python. Now, the reason this is tied with 2 and number 1 is if you like bigger snakes, then you would go with the ball python. Again, they're really cheap to buy at expos and pet stores and stuff. They're really easy to handle. They're a lot less skittish. And they eat really well too. They eat frozen, thawed, or live, depending, but really frozen thawed is the way to go. Unless your snake has a problem and cannot eat frozen thawed. And their enclosure can be this Exoterra tank that you see right here. This, I think this was $140. I can't really remember the dimensions. I'll put it on the screen right now. And number 1, or number 2, depending, is going to be the corn snake, which mine is nowhere to be found. I think it's like under the substrate, but I'm not going to bother it because it just ate. But the reason I put the corn snake on the first on the list, or the second depending, is because they get smaller than the ball pythons. Not really in length, but in the thickness of them. Like ball pythons are around like that big, and then corn snakes are around like that big. So yeah, corn snakes, my corn snake has never really bit me. It's never had any trouble eating, and it can live its whole life in this tank right here. And the only heat that they need would really be from a heat bulb, which goes out at the night. This is just an Exoterra heat bulb. And then also, again, the substrate, just you got your Aspen. And these are a little on the cheaper side to feed. You're looking about, like, I think, like, maybe, like, $6 a month. Which doesn't really matter, though. I mean, like, whatever your pet store is, it'll all vary. But, yeah, usually the feeding is something easy because it's like $1 each time you go. So, yeah. All they need really is a lot of hide choices. Here is a little circular hide, a little log hide, and the hot hide, which is usually in, but now it's not going in it for some reason. So yeah, let me find it for you guys. So here's my corn snake. As you can see, I don't really want to bother too much because it ate a couple of hours ago. but you can't really see the colors too because it's going into shed. This is a lavender corn snake, as you can kind of see. But yeah, she's really skittish because she just ate, as I said. But yeah, as you can see, not even trying to bite me or anything. I'm just trying to get back to hiding. So yeah, there's your corn snake.